Capturing the beauty of our world on canvas, in all its splendour, is a challenge. But it's one that Nicholas Hely Hutchinson embraces. From his home in Dorset, his travels have taken him across the seas, to Venice, to paint its iconic landmarks, to Mustique, to capture the idyllic tranquility of a distant Caribbean shore, and to Costa Rica, to portray the natural beauty of a rainforest and the wildlife within it. His paintings breathe the scent of foreign lands. Closer to home, he brings to life rain-swept mountains and the wild coast of Ireland. But it's his love of Dorset that shines through. Nicholas's paintings can be seen as simple landscapes, or interiors of a room with a view beyond, or perhaps the bustle of a busy city. But what really draws you into his vision is the mystery of nature, its beauty through the seasons, and a fleeting moment in time. Many artists use similar methods and materials to convey their inspiration and ideas, but each works in their own distinctive style. And it's these skills, combined with a touch of magic, that make Nicholas's paintings so intensely identifiable.
Normally I'll have an idea of what I want to paint. I'll see something in the landscape, or there'll be something in my head. So I'll get a sketchbook, and I usually have a sketchbook with me when I'm walking about. And what I'm trying to do is do a very rough drawings, then I come back to the studio and I might do a more intricate sketch to give me even better idea of how the painting's going to look. So once I've done the sketches, I then go straight onto the canvas, and I don't use any pencil marks or anything on the canvas because I know where the shapes are. So I do an underpainting first, which is usually with big house painting brushes. And that is the basic shapes of the painting. So if it's a landscape, there might be various blues or something in the sky, or greens for the landscape. And sometimes I try and put a warm colour in that I'll want to come through paint that I put on top. So I allow that to dry, and then about 2 days later, using both rags and large paintbrushes, I will slowly try and build up the colour on top of that, allowing the first layer of colour to come through. And I do this because I like the mixture of the two layers, and it creates a sort of richness in the paint. And it's just the way that the morning light comes filtering through, and it just picks out a few things. It's rather beautiful in a way. So it's going to have a rose bush coming across here, and the blackbird is going to be silhouetted against that light area behind there. And that's really the focal point of the whole painting. And so the next stage, I'm going to start picking out some of the leaves on this wonderful horse chestnut tree. Slowly I move from larger paintbrushes to smaller paintbrushes, and finally really the smallest sable brushes to get very detailed things like grass or petals on a flower or something like that. And the painting, once I've got it in my head, the general structure of the painting won't change very much, but various elements in the painting might be added. So I'll see there'll be a large area that needs filling in the composition, and something might appear in it. But on the whole, from the sketchbook to the finished painting, I'll have some sort of an idea of what the painting's going to look like. This painting, it's called A Blackbird Singing and the Early Morning Light. And I love the idea that the painting can create sound. I'm hoping that you'd sort of, when you look at it, you'd imagine what it was like to actually be there on a beautiful autumn morning. My inspiration is constantly trying to convey the idea of really what it's like to be me. It's waking up in the morning, the feeling you get when you draw the curtain back, and there are little things that just inspire you. And it's those moments I try and capture. It's the moments that completely surround us the whole time. I try and capture that sort of beauty in paintings. I see things that I think are inspirational for me, things that I think are poetic or beautiful, or there's something about that in the landscape or in the interior or whatever. And when I'm painting the picture, when I think of it in my head first, I'll do sort of sketches in my sketchbook, very roughly. But I have an idea that I would want to convey this idea and put it down on a canvas, and so that one day someone will see it, perhaps in a gallery or see it on the wall somewhere, and they will be able to feel that feeling that I felt at that moment in my life. Sometimes you have a very, very soft light, like there's a painting of a bluebell wood that I did recently, and this has no sharp sunlight at all, and it's a flat light, but because it's a flat light you get more of an intense blue. The landscape's something that really interests me because it's constantly changing, and different times of the year have a different atmosphere and different weathers. And what I'm always trying to do is get a feeling of what it's really like to be in a certain place at a certain time, and to get the atmosphere of that place and the essence of it. And sometimes in the winter you might have something rather dark and gloomy, but it's rather poetic in a funny sort of way. And some of my winter paintings, of course, I'm trying to get a sense of the coldness, and also I sometimes put a bird in, and it's a sense of the vulnerability of, say, a little bird in the landscape.
As the seasons change, the rich colours of summer unfold. Nicholas paints in a way that envelops you in the scene. It's as if you become part of this land.
In the summer, I might, if I'm painting a landscape, I'd probably be trying to get a feeling of what it's like, the heat and the sun on top of a hill or whatever it is that attracts me of the particular place I'm trying to paint. But essentially, I'm trying to get the atmosphere, so I'll put various elements into the painting that I can see around me and things I can hear. So it might be I'll see some wildflowers or something, and they may not be immediately in front of me, but I'll take them from one part of the composition and put them into the painting. But also birds and butterflies, and I'm trying to gather all the elements together to get a feeling of this particular place. And so that's really what I'm trying to do when I'm doing a painting.
And living in the Dorset countryside, which has remained virtually unchanged for hundreds of years, gives him a deep understanding of the hidden secrets of this place. The rugged beauty of the Jurassic coastline has featured in many of Nicholas's exhibitions. These paintings reflect far-reaching horizons, the ever-changing light, his passion for the sea, and the part of Britain he so cherishes. But the weather is not always so benign.
There are warnings of gales in Viking, north at Sierra, south at Sierra, Forties, Cromarty, Thames, Dover, White, Portland, Plymouth. South, 5 to 7 veering southwest, 8 to severe gale 9. Squally showers, good, occasionally poor.
Experiencing the different forces of nature is always inspiring. Nicholas revels in this late autumn storm.
Oh, look at those waves! Never seen anything like it. But it's exhilarating. The trouble is you can't really draw in this sort of thing because everything blows away and gets wet. It's wonderful, the sun on the sea there, sparkling. Loads of birds flying past. See why Turner got so excited about this sort of thing. I could watch these waves all blooming day. Look at that one. Portland's extraordinarily dramatic. It sticks out into the English Channel, and when the wind gets up, the lighthouse is isolated at the end of this strip of land, and you get huge waves crashing against a jumble of rocks, and the gulls flying around. I mean, wow, what a subject for a painting. It's absolutely marvellous. I remember standing on the edge of the rocks trying to do some drawing, which was practically impossible in that wind. And an enormous wave came, and I was completely soaked to the skin. But I came back and I did really quite a large painting of it. It's one of those places that I get attracted to because it's such an interesting subject for a painting. And the sea crashes over, the wind blows it off the top. It's really wonderful. And it's constantly changing.
And it's the subtlety of the changing seasons that figure so prominently in his paintings. To Nicholas, they are the high notes in the rhythms of the year. A fall of winter snow or a covering of frost transforms familiar landscapes, and it's these opportunities that can't be missed.
I'm beginning to see things that might make a really interesting painting, because you get all sorts of rhythms in the landscape here with these dark silhouetted trees. And at this time of year, there's no leaf on the trees, so they're just lots of different tones, darks and greys. And this morning, there's just been a smattering of snow in the night, and so it's bloody cold and frosty up here. But it's very interesting. It's looking pretty good as the sun comes up. And I think this might make a really interesting painting, because you could see these dark trees in the foreground, and then you get a bit of hill, and then you get some more dark trees, and it gets paler and paler as you go into the distance. I think it's called atmospheric perspective. And so you have all these layers of greys and blues. In the far distance, there's a thin grey-blue line, and then quite pale on the horizon, and then a lovely dark cloud, which is just catching the sun as it comes up. Come on, girls. Come on. Is that Olive?
Inspired by these hills dusted with snow, Nicholas will take the memories of this morning back to the studio for others to see and share. But this evening, he has somewhere else to go. Collected by art lovers across the globe, Nicholas's paintings have appeared in exhibitions in Hong Kong, Dublin, and Munich. But it's in London, at the Portland, one of the city's leading art galleries, where most of his shows are held. Gallery owner Tom Hewlett has represented Nicholas's work for over 20 years.
Nicholas has got his own particular way of looking at the landscape and still life too, but predominantly landscape. And it's what we're looking for as a gallery is an artist who has their own signature, their own way of painting. For example, I mean, if you look here behind me, this wonderful depiction of Mystique. It really couldn't be by anybody else. It has to be Nicholas. But that's what he's so good at. He absolutely captures the essence of the place he is at. As it happens, he travels around the world. He's painted in Hong Kong, in Mystique, in New York. I mean, he does go to some pretty nice places, but boy, does he portray them well. And he doesn't just limit it to his overseas travels, because his heartland, the real love of his life, is where he lives in Dorset. And I don't know a better artist in terms of portraying the Dorset landscape than Nicholas. He is without peer. And it's not just the landscape, it's the quirkiness of the landscape, his love of the landscape really comes through in his paintings. There's something special there, and it's very, very difficult to capture, and he's managed to do just that.